Right now, at airports across the United States, travelers are handing over their phone passwords to federal officers, and they do not even realize they may not have had to. Some of those people had their entire digital life searched: private messages, bank accounts, immigration documents, family photos, medical records, all of it. And for some of them, what those officers found or misunderstood led to consequences that took years to undo. Before your next international flight lands on U.S. soil, you need to know exactly what your rights are, what the law actually says, and the one action you must take before the plane touches down that could protect everything stored on your device. Because right now, most travelers are walking into that inspection booth completely unprepared, and that lack of preparation is not just uncomfortable, it is dangerous. Here is what changed and why this matters more right now than it ever has before. CBP, Customs, and Border Protection has significantly increased the number of electronic device searches at U.S. ports of entry. In recent years, that number has grown by hundreds of %. That is not a rumor. That is documented in government data. Officers are now routinely asking travelers for their phones, tablets, and laptops as part of standard entry processing. And the question is not just happening to people who look suspicious. It is happening to people who have lived in this country for a decade. People returning from a family vacation. People who have never had a single legal issue in their entire lives. This is the reality of crossing the U.S. border today in 2026. And if you are not prepared for it, you are vulnerable. So, who exactly is this happening to? If you are a visa holder, whether that is an H-1B, an F-1 student visa, a B-1 or B-2 tourist visa, or any other non-immigrant status, you are in the most exposed position of anyone at that border. You are not a U.S. citizen. You are not a lawful permanent resident. That distinction matters enormously when an officer asks for your password, and we will explain exactly why in a moment. If you are a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident, your situation is different but still carries serious risks you need to understand. And if you are a U.S. citizen returning home from international travel, you have the strongest legal protections of all, but even you are not untouchable. This affects every single person who crosses an international border into the United States. That means it affects you. Here is the legal foundation you must understand. There is a federal policy called CBP Directive 3340-049A. This is the official government document that gives Customs and Border Protection officers the authority to search your electronic devices at the U.S. border. Under this directive, two types of searches are authorized. The first is called a basic search. This is a manual review where an officer physically scrolls through your device with their own eyes and hands. No warrant is required, no suspicion is required. Any officer can conduct a basic search on any traveler entering or leaving the United States. That is the law as it stands today. The second type is called an advanced search. This involves connecting external equipment to your device, running forensic software, and copying your data onto government systems. For this more invasive search, the officer is supposed to have reasonable suspicion of unlawful activity or a national security concern. The threshold is higher, but it is not impossible for them to meet. Now here is the part that shocks most people. The Fourth Amendment, the constitutional protection that says the government cannot search your belongings without a warrant, does not apply in the same way at the border. The courts have recognized what is called the border search exception. This legal doctrine allows federal agents to conduct certain searches at ports of entry without the normal warrant requirement. Civil liberties organizations are actively challenging this in courts. But today, in practical reality, when you are standing at that booth, exhausted from a 14-hour flight, the border search exception is the world you are living in. Knowing this is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to arm you. Now here is the risk that nobody is talking about clearly enough. If you are on a visa, any non-immigrant visa, and you refuse to provide your password to a CBP officer, you are not protected from being denied entry into the United States. The officer has the legal authority to consider that refusal as a factor in deciding whether to admit you. That means they can put you on a flight back to where you came from. That is not a threat. That is a documented outcome that has happened to real people. You did not break any law. You did not commit any crime. But you are not a citizen, and at the border, that distinction controls your options. On the other hand, if you are a lawful permanent resident or a U.S. citizen and you refuse to provide your password, you cannot be denied entry to the country. Your right to enter is constitutionally protected, but refusing will likely mean hours of secondary detention, intense questioning, and there is something else that almost nobody prepares for. Under this directive, CBP has the authority to physically seize your device. They will hand you a receipt and they will keep your phone, your laptop, your tablet for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes longer. That is legal. That is happening, and you need a plan for it before you ever board that plane. Here is what you must do, and you must do it before the aircraft lands, not after. The moment the pilot announces the descent into a U.S. airport, you take out your phone and you switch it to airplane mode. Then you go into your settings and you manually turn off Wi-Fi as a separate step. Do not rely on airplane mode alone. Verify that your device has no active internet connection. Why does this matter so much? Because CBP policy specifically states that officers are only authorized to search data that is physically stored on your device. They are not authorized to access data stored remotely, meaning your cloud backup, your email server, your messaging app archives stored online, your photo cloud library. But here is the critical detail. If your phone is still connected to the internet when the officer picks it up, your cloud data becomes accessible, and the line between on-device and remote data becomes legally blurred and very difficult for you to challenge afterward. Airplane mode, fully verified, before you land, is a simple 10-second action that legally separates your physical device storage from everything stored remotely. It does not hide anything. It does not obstruct any search. It simply ensures that any authorized search stays within its own legal boundaries. The second thing you must do, regardless of your immigration status, is say these specific words if an officer demands your password. Say clearly and calmly, "I am providing this under protest. I do not consent to this search. If possible, I would like to speak with an attorney." These 3 sentences will not stop the search from happening, but they do something critically important. They create a verbal record that you did not voluntarily cooperate. In any legal proceeding that follows, your attorney can use that documented objection to challenge the admissibility of any evidence discovered during that search. Silence protects no one. These words protect you. The third thing you must do is know your immigration status and know your personal threshold before you travel, not while standing at the booth. Sit down before your trip and honestly answer this question. If an officer asks for my password and I refuse, what is the realistic worst-case outcome for someone in my specific situation? If you are on a visa, your realistic worst case is denial of entry. Know that. Prepare for it. That means airplane mode protection becomes your primary defense, and verbal non-consent becomes your documented backup. If you are a green card holder or a citizen, your worst case is device seizure and extended detention. Know that. Prepare for it. Have a backup phone or at minimum a written list of your most important contacts so that if your device is seized, you are not completely cut off from your life. Now here are the most common and most costly mistakes travelers make at this moment. The first mistake is handing over the password before even being asked a second time. Pure fear causes this. Preparation eliminates fear. The second mistake is having your phone fully connected to the internet when you hand it to the officer. That single oversight can expose data that is legally supposed to be outside the scope of their authorized search. The third mistake is saying nothing at all. Not consenting verbally is not the same as verbal non-consent. Silence leaves no record. The words leave a record. Say them. The fourth mistake is not knowing the difference between your rights as a visa holder versus your rights as a permanent resident or citizen. Those are not the same rights. Treating them as equal is what has cost real people their visa status, their entry, and months of their lives trying to recover what they lost. Here is your final warning, and it is important that you hear this clearly. Immigration law in this country is shifting faster than almost any other area of federal policy right now. What was true last year may not be fully true today. Officers at the border have broad authority, and they exercise it. The only thing standing between you and a situation that upends your life is the information you carry in your mind before that plane lands. Not after, not at the booth, before. You watching this video right now is the right move. The next right move is sharing it. Your friend who just got their green card and is traveling for the first time. Your coworker on an H-1B who has no idea this policy exists. Your family member visiting on a tourist visa who thinks the border is just passport control. They are walking into this unprepared. You now know what they do not. Send them this video before their next flight. Because knowing your rights is not just personal protection. It is how you protect the people around you. Do not give anyone your password until you have done these 3 things. Airplane mode before landing. Know your legal status and your real options. And say those words on the record. That is how you walk out of that airport with your device, your dignity, and your status exactly where they belong.